Hello and welcome to TXM TV. I'm Anthony Klein and today I'm joined by Rob Chittenden. Hi Rob, how are you?
I'm well, Anthony. Good to be here, and hello, everyone.
And today Rob and I are discussing how A3s help structure conversations so that they are efficient and effective. And so in the day of remote working, there is a need for everybody to be heard and a need to listen. And often we find that the conversations will spend a long time in discovery mode where everybody has a little bit to say. Some people don't. But with an A3 format, what it does, it structures the conversation to flow. And I'll put up an example of what I'm talking about for an A3 structure. So typically they start with the background over here. So you say, well, what is it that why are we here? What's the background to this conversation? What's the current situation? And notice there's defined spaces to write in this. And this is an A3 size sheet of paper, of course. Then we write down what is it, what's the target condition, what is it we want to achieve, and work that through. And down here, we explore our thinking. We write down what we find, how we work things out, how we interpret the current situation in the context of the target. And often that's a very quantified type of box. And then over on this side, we've got our future state. We often draw a picture here, a diagram that contrasts to the current state with the future state, so that our brains can say, this is what it is now, and this is what it's going to be. And that having that difference makes it very simple. Then we get into actions. We have a list of very concise actions that just make it communicate exactly who's doing what, when, and that sort of thing. And then down here, we often draw a graph and just say, this is how we're going. This is the effectiveness of our A3. And so what this A3 does, it achieves a few benefits. It sequences the conversation to go down here and down there in the process. It also explains the decision making, including the reason why the alternatives weren't chosen, and what it does, it limits the space. So often there's somebody in the team will want to talk about something, then they'll want to reinforce it, then they'll explain it again. But that's taking up too much space. And so it's capping the amount of discussion that certain people have, and it's providing a much more even contribution forum for many people, which works well, especially when we're working remotely. So the A3 is a very important tool. And Robert, how do we go about using the A3?
Yeah, well, that's a great introduction to the A3 template, Anthony, and it's one that we use quite a lot at TXM, and I certainly have used it project after project. It's a really good controlling document. But I'd like to talk about just getting it started. Like the A3 is a template, but there's a lot to happen to get that to go on to the A3. How do you actually just start? So sometimes it's defining the problem is really what we need to have some discussion around at the beginning, so that we can structure it eventually to get on an A3. It's A3, so it's not a lot of space to fit the whole story on. So when I work with groups, and particularly remotely, it is trying to break it up a little bit, try and find out all the issues, make sure that we know what the long-term view is. We might be talking about how do we align all of the A3 actions to the required outcome. Let's have that discussion. Let's define what performance or the service levels need to be. So let's have that metric discussion nice and early. Where are we going with the A3, and why does it exist? Why are we trying to get this process changed? So trying to work that out and beforehand is just around discussions, working with groups, listening to those bits and pieces of information that come out that we can eventually structure into an A3 process. And we might need to set boundaries up there. And one of the things I use a lot is to use the A3 to break up into the improvement process into several chunks or sections or blocks, whatever terminology you'd like to use. So the A3 isn't trying to address the entire process that you're trying to improve at once, because normally they're quite long or have different areas are affecting. So we need to break it up into different, bite-sizable pieces is really what I'm after there. And then we can set the A3s up to be a little bit simpler and easier to work on, because they're just totally focused on a small amount of information, building into a larger A3 all up. Once we've got it on the A3 and you've transcribed that information there, you end up then can follow just a standard management process of managing that document. And the size of the template allows it to be stuck on the wall. It allows it to be sent online. We can have a PDF or a file that we're updating, so it can be a living document for people to work to and keep our teams focused and aligned to achieving that change. So it's a very important document and one I use all the time. So just in summary, so take the time, really define what your problem statement is and how it's going to lead to the performance that you're after. List all the issues you can and then filter them, review them. A lot of them overlap, so we might see some overlapping of issues, and then structure them into an A3. It's the best way to organise that into one statement, and Anthony's already talked about some of the benefits there. So the A3 is a great document to use. I wouldn't be able to do the work that I do without it, so it's a great template to use. So that's my quick summary of how we actually get the A3 started, Anthony.
Fantastic, Rob. And I think when I reflect back on my career, a lot of the projects that work very well at this, actually we use the A3. And by filling it in by hand, it just explains to everybody what it is that we're doing and why. And by having it written down, some people don't like to listen, some people read, some people look at the pictures, and by having all three mediums on display, it really helps people in a diverse range of interpreting styles interpret exactly what's going on.
Yeah, and when you display them and you have 6 or 7 of them on a wall describing how you're improving a value chain or a service, it's really powerful. And I really enjoy just stepping back and watching, people that are not connected with the project, just walking past and stopping and reading, and they understand what's going on. So it's a great communication tool because it doesn't take too much to absorb what's going on in each of these sheets. So very powerful in that way for a communication tool.
That's exactly right. And thank you, Rob, and thank you for watching this live production. Remember to comment on our LinkedIn page, and we hope you watch us again next time. See you then.
Okay, bye.